Good day, guys. This is Kirill, and we're continuing the review series of Course in Miracles lessons. And yeah, today we're continuing with the next lesson. And let me share the screen. Uh, all right. All right. So today we are reviewing the lesson 83. And let's go on with that. And so, yeah, today we're reviewing lessons 65 and 66. And lesson 65 is my only function is the one God gave me. I have no function but the one God gave me. This recognition releases me from all conflict because it means I can't have conflicting goals. With one purpose only, I'm always certain what to do, what to say, and what to think. All doubt must disappear as I acknowledge that my only function is the one God gave me. Yeah, this is on the surface, uh, looks like a very simple lesson, but yeah, so for me, it's kind of a reminder that really we have no idea. But, paradoxically, we have no idea what to do, what to say, what to think. With one purpose only, I'm always certain what to do, what to say, and what to think. It actually means that we are delegating all that to the Holy Spirit, in my opinion. The way I understand it, but let's start with the first one. I have no function but the one God gave me. This recognition releases me from all conflict because it means I can't have conflicting goals. So, the way I understand it is in my mind, the only real condition when I have no conflict, so this recognition releases me from all conflict. So, the only way to have no conflict is to not make conflicting decisions. So, like we said many times, our every decision is decision between Holy Spirit and the ego. They are completely opposite in all aspects and all nuances of all aspects. And this is where the conflict stems from. So we're really choosing from two completely incompatible ideas, and the only way to release the conflict is to actually only decide for the Holy Spirit and ask Holy Spirit for everything, what to do, what to say, what to think. And also we can remember that in chapter 1 of the text, the principles of miracles, Jesus speaks about that miracles must be involuntary. They should not be guided consciously. They arise from subconscious. And if you guide them consciously, they might be misguided. And yeah, so for me, if I kind of put all of that together, it means that this lesson is a reminder that it is my job to delegate all decision making to the Holy Spirit, and my only job is to make this decision in a way. So my only job is to actually ask Holy Spirit for everything, and with one purpose only, which is Holy Spirit's. I'm always certain what to do, what to say, and what to think. What does it mean? The way I understand it is that I am just inspired to do certain things. Well, all things in this case. Like, I shouldn't plan to do a miracle or anything really. So, in one of the later lessons, we have lessons around um, kind of not planning anything for the day and allowing Holy Spirit to, like, I think it's lesson 155, like I'm making step back and allow truth to go ahead of me, something like that. And yeah, so for me, it really means that with one purpose only, like I would potentially try to substitute it with when I'm connected with my one self, or when I'm joined with all that is, or with, yeah. So I'm just trying to play with this a little bit. So to assume one purpose, it is a little bit of a um, something that I probably do not immediately make sense to me right now. And I'm just trying, in situations like that, I'm trying to play with words a little bit to try to substitute them with something else that potentially makes more sense to me right now. And so this one, the way in which it would be easier for me to understand, I would probably substitute it when I'm joined with my real self. I'm always certain what to do, what to say, and what to think. It makes a lot more sense to me and a lot more practical sense to me because I just know how it feels. And what it means really to me is that there is nothing for me to do or say or think. I will be inspired for all action, all conversations, and all thoughts from the Holy Spirit if I just allow Holy Spirit to do this for me. And this if I just allow, it sounds simple, but it's a very big if actually. So I'd say the way I like another layer of this second bullet point is that in the moments when I'm connected with myself, everything that I need to know or think or say or do, I will be just given. I will be inspired for action. I will just know what to say, and all the right thoughts will just come to my mind. I will know everything that I need to know to make decisions. And remembering that I don't really make decisions, I just accept decisions of the Holy Spirit. And yeah, it's just a, it's, I think we can think about it as a glimpse of not really planning. So, one of the later lessons will consider planning as a defense against uncertainty. And that defense really kind of makes us project our quote unquote desired future into what we think, what we should do, should say, should think, and so on. And this way, we think, well, the situation is like that, and what I need to do is that, what I need to say is that, what I need to think is that. And by doing all of that, by not allowing Holy Spirit to give us the answer to our question, we just perpetuating our ego mind, essentially. And this is a beautiful reminder that we don't need to do any of that. And when I'm really connected with my one self, I will be inspired, and all the right ideas and impulses will just come to me, and I will be receptive to them, and I will just know what to do. Yeah, that's really beautiful. Well, that rings my bell at least. All doubt must disappear as I acknowledge that my only function, or my connection with my one self, is the one God gave me. So here we talk about doubt. And doubt, yeah, it's, I guess it's a continuation of what we just discussed. The doubt must disappear. That's the main theme of this um, bullet point. If I, or when I accept my function, and that this is the only function that I have. And if we think about that, the function is really to allow Holy Spirit to do through me whatever needs to be done, and just believe that everything that the script is written, and I could rest assured that everything that needs to be done through me is actually for everyone's best interest. Then all doubt must disappear. Because if I doubt, I'm essentially, it means that I'm saying I know better what to do. I am experiencing or perceiving situation as with an element of threat. And therefore, because of this threat, I'm trying to protect myself from this threat, perceived threat. And this is where doubt comes from. Because doubt is this what if kind of line of thought, train of thought. And if I accept that everything is given to me, then doubt must disappear. If my only function is the one that God gave me, which is effectively delegating everything to the Holy Spirit, then doubt must disappear, because there will be no perception of threat. There will be no perception that I'd be better off by doing something else other than my function. I'd be safer, better, I don't know, richer, um, and ultimately happier by doing something else. I don't know. I'm looking at my life and I'm thinking, well, I really tried everything that I could think of to be happy in the external world, and it did not work. And how could I even hope that something else could give me this happiness. And so, yeah, so this doubt is effectively, doubt is an attraction of external world and its understanding of what happiness is. Essentially, it's the choice between body and spirit, if we think about it. Because spirit is invincible, spirit does not need protection, and spirit knows, spirit has absolutely no doubt. And this is only when body enters the mind, there appears to be a choice. Like we could either act from the spirit and translate spirit and manifest spirit, or we could perceive ourselves as bodies and trying to protect bodies and act in the interest of, like, interest, if there was an interest of bodies. And yeah, this is where um, selfishness comes from, and separation comes from. Yeah, but it's very interesting that the doubt must disappear. And for me, it's a very important point that for me, I guess it's a criterion, really, that I'm practicing something right. If I have doubts about the exercise, about the lesson, about what lesson says, for me, it's a signal. Yeah, you probably should read once again, and you probably, I'm talking to myself, and I probably should read once again. I probably should try to really make an effort to understand what it says. And every time I do that, there's just no doubt about what lesson says. There might be doubt about my ability to actually follow through, but yeah, after a few repetitions, I usually can overcome this doubt as well. And ultimately, like, when I practice forgiveness, ultimately it doesn't really matter if I'm thinking that I could follow through or not, because I can always forgive my doubts and just accept that they are my misunderstanding, just local temporary misunderstanding. All right, so let's look at more specific applications of this idea. So I remind that these are the points we are recommended. These are the kind of direction of thought we are recommended to apply when there is a upsetting situation. Um, and so instead of feeling upset, we could remind ourselves that my perception of the situation, does not change my function. Or we can say, does not change my union with myself, or does not change my innocence, doesn't change the fact that I'm the light of the world. So yeah, feel free to play with that if you want to. If so, for me personally, when I talk about my function, it could feel a little bit murky at times. So yeah, I personally substitute my function with something else that I intimate have an intimate experience of understanding. Um, and then again, always ask Holy Spirit, what does it mean? In the end of the day, the words don't matter that much. So it is really the experience of what these words are pointing towards is what's important. So the situation, does not give me a function other than the one God gave me. So here I would probably say that my function with respect to this situation, so this situation is really for forgiveness. Every situation is for forgiveness. So here we apply these statements to the upsetting situations, and particular upsetting situations are always for forgiveness. And my function is forgiveness. Again, I'm substituting. This situation does not give me a function other than the one God gave me. So yeah, I would probably, for myself, I would probably substitute it with something like, this situation does not change the fact that it's for forgiveness. That um, yeah, I wanted to say should forgive it, but it's not about should. I would really be better off if I accept the miracle behind the situation, something like that. Let me not use this situation to justify a function God did not give me. So the way I would transform it probably is, so if this is an upsetting situation, we're talking about upsetting situations, the very fact that I'm thinking that I'm upset means that I interpret this situation wrongly. I chose the interpretation of the ego, and I'd say, let me not use this situation to justify a misjudgment. I really want to forgive the reason for my upset or something like that. That's what I would say. And yeah, feel free to play with the suggested phrase so that it makes intimate sense to you. It's, from my experience, it's really important that you intimately understand what you're asking for. And yeah, so doesn't matter if it represents the underlying intention 100% correctly or 100% aligned with the actual phrase. Holy Spirit will make sure that you're applying it correctly. As long as you have the right intention that is aligned with the Holy Spirit's vision, everything will be all right. Holy Spirit will adjust the perception. Really, this is about changing perception. If I saw the situation as upsetting, my real goal is to remove the upsetting part out of it. I'm not seeking to change the situation. I'm just seeking to recognize the miracle in the situation behind the upset. That's my real goal in these things. And so the next lesson, my happiness and my function are one. Just think about it. My happiness and my function are one. All things that come from God are one. They come from oneness and must be received as one. Fulfilling my function is my happiness because both come from the same source, and I must learn to recognize what makes me happy if I would find happiness. So, another on the face value, it's a very abstract set of statements, but let's try to dig deeper. What do they really say? And so, first of all, the title: My happiness and my function are one. And so, coupled with the previous lesson, uh, that my only function is the one God gave me, and my function and my happiness are one, it means that by fulfilling my function, it's the only way to get to real happiness. And by not fulfilling my function, I'm guaranteed to not be happy. Isn't it good to know? I really think it is. All things that come from God are one, they come from oneness and must be received as one. So, what it means for me is that um, God has certain properties like oneness, of course, knowledge, um, infinity, timelessness, uh, kindness, loving attitude, and some others. But they're really, you can we can take kindness, and from kindness we really could come to, so they're all really one thing. We're just trying to describe one thing with different aspects, but it doesn't really matter because we can take any one of those and all the others will be automatically coupled with it. Let me just quickly close this one. So let's, for example, take kindness. Obviously, kindness is loving. Obviously, kindness is unlimited. Obviously, kindness is timeless. Obviously, kindness is mm, it just, if you just take kindness and think about kindness, you couldn't help but arrive to all the others. They kind of form a clique in a way, like they could not exist without one another. They must exist together. This is how I understand it. It's just we take a single, like happiness, for example, in this lesson, and we say that happiness could not exist without kindness, or without timelessness, or without infinity, or without loving attitude, and so on. And so all things that come from God are one. They come from oneness and must be received as one. All that it really says is that you can't have kindness in isolation and not have happiness. You can't have happiness and not have loving attitude. Um, you can't have loving attitude and not have creating principle of God, like this power of creativity. They all, this is a package deal. They come together. You can't have one without automatically having the others in a kind of in a single package. They are inseparable. Fulfilling my function is my happiness because both come from the same source. And so here we say my function, which is forgiveness, is my happiness because both come from the same source. So here we say we just take two aspects of oneness and say, hey, they are inseparable because they come from the same source. They are part of oneness. And so my function and my happiness must be the same. In fact, lesson title says that they are one. And I must learn to recognize what makes me happy if I would find happiness. And so the last point is actually, if first two are more or less kind of academic and theoretical, the last one is, for me personally, is very practical. What does it mean to recognize what makes me happy? The way I look at it, I feel like really it is learning through recognizing what does not make me happy. Because it is really the disappointment from everything material that makes me even think to have a look at something immaterial. For example, uh, we all in Western societies we learn from early on that money are important. Material things like cars, houses, families, kids, wives, husbands, whatever are important. Having a good body is important. Being healthy is important, and so on, so on, so on. And we assign happiness to a endless list of things. But over time, at least what happened to me is that I started, after studying the course, I started to really look closer and experiment. What actually makes me happy? And it really started with recognition what doesn't make me happy. Like, for example, uh, spending certain amount of money does it makes very little difference in my life. I could spend, I don't know, $300 a week or $700 a week. It makes very little practical difference in terms of my happiness. So the amount of money that I spend a week is not a factor in my happiness. In fact, I was in situations when I didn't have a cent, and yeah, I later on I understood that it. I was a little bit frightened, but once the situation resolved, uh, it had nothing to do with my happiness at the moment. In fact, I had to find my happiness for situation to resolve, and this is how it resolved. But yeah, let's leave the story to another day. But and then the car, for example, or the house. Well, yeah, so the initial idea is that, oh, I have to have a house. It has to be in my, like, I have to own it. I don't want to rent. Rent money is dead money, blah, blah, blah. Same goes with cars, same goes with whatever. But then over time, yeah, we could say that probably a new car would make me happy for the afternoon. But really, I mean, does it really matter? I lived without a car for most of my life. And in fact, doesn't make any material difference to happiness. It's not really happiness, it's rather convenience that a car creates. And then the house, like it's really like all of a sudden you are, I have now to be responsible for all the maintenance and all that. So it's rather impractical in kind of material way. The fact that it has my name against it, it doesn't make any real difference. But the fact that I have to do all the maintenance now myself. So you see what I mean. Now, of course, family relationships and all that, same story. Although it might be a little bit, um, I certainly had resistance to seeing it this way for a very, very long time. And I thought, well, yeah, without having this special other, there's no way for me to be happy. And to have this special other, I have to have a car and have blah blah blah, all this material stuff, good job, and all that, certain funds in the bank and so on. But really, once you have this special other, well, have quote unquote, like, doesn't it just bring more problems? Really? Some benefits, yes. Everything brings some benefits, but problems come big way as well. Of course, this is the exercise for forgiveness, but in forgiveness. But what I'm just saying is that to recognize what makes me happy, I'm just returning to the meta point I'm making. The way it worked for me, I really had to recognize that nothing outside of me is capable, even theoretically, to make me happy. I couldn't seriously assign the happiness to owning a house or owning a car or having this special other in my life. It just doesn't work this way. And I to be able to really accept this idea, I had to come through enough of life experience to really see it clearly. And now, what makes me happy? What does make me happy? If nothing external makes me happy, then what does? And so this question is really simple, but with all this social programming that we need to have a long list of things, possessions, it's kind of hard to find a little bit. And really, what makes me happy is the trust that everything will be provided for me every time. I don't have to worry. I have to, well, it's not that I have to, but peace is welcome because I don't have to organize anything. I don't have to plan for anything. I don't have to, I don't know, learn anything. Everything will be just organized and provided. And because I don't have to, like, consciously guided miracles can be misguided, consciously directed miracles might be misguided. I know that it really feels like an impulse, an inspiration, a nudge, and I just feel like doing something. I just feel like reading something. I just feel like researching something. And yeah, I'm just doing it. And once, so there are moments when I really accept that I need do nothing. And this peace comes when I completely understand that Holy Spirit organizes everything perfectly. And with proportionately to my level of trust, uh, I could just accept Holy Spirit's help in anything. And this happiness and trust and peace resulting from that is really what makes me happy. And so here we say, and I must learn to recognize what makes me happy if I would find happiness. This was a very long comment about really the peace of God that comes with trust, and how nothing other than peace of God cannot really bring happiness, any real lasting deep happiness. Well, at least this is my experience. Let's look at the ideas for specific applications. This situation cannot separate my happiness from my function. Interesting. So we say we are experiencing some event, some situation in our lives where we see our function and our happiness as separate. And here we say, hey, I'm recognizing that I could only be happy if I do forgiveness about anything. And I could not be happy if I'm choosing something else other than forgiveness. And forgiveness being the recognition that behind each kind of disappointment, each stress, each upset is a miracle. And just the forgiveness, the miracle is really the shift of perception from upset to miracle. Sorry, from upset to peace. This is the miracle. And yeah, this is lovely. The oneness of my happiness and my function remains wholly unaffected by this situation. Yeah, it certainly it does help me sometimes to recognize that. Especially, yeah, so occasionally I have situations when some things, potentially worrying things, happen out of blue. Well, out of blue, quote unquote, of course, because they could only manifest as part of subconscious guilt, or yeah, so I'm effectively punishing myself for something, for the guilt that I experience. And yeah, I'm just thinking, well, Holy Spirit, okay, I see this. I have this anxiety that this is not good, that potentially I have to call somewhere or run somewhere or do something. Tell me what to do. once I really accept the idea that everything is organized for my forgiveness, I just I literally forget about it. I just don't think about it anymore. There's just there's no anxiety about it. Yeah, it happened a couple of days ago, last time that I could think of. Nothing, including this situation, can justify the illusion of happiness apart from my function. And this illusion of happiness is actually, for example, in the previous example, I had anxiety about the situation. Could I really, I don't know, drive this long with this light on the panel being red or something? And the illusion of happiness in this case was that I should go to the car service and fix this thing. And it's unsafe to drive with this light being red. But I just realized that if it happened at this moment, if it happened the way it did, if I had, I don't know, this idea what I should do, and I ask Holy Spirit, should I go to the service? Should I continue? Should I, my journey or whatever? And yeah, I just recognized that this was the anxiety that I had. And I just gave it to the Holy Spirit and said, hey, Holy Spirit, this popped up in response. This event occurred as a reflection of my internal anxiety. I'm punishing myself for something. I'm feeling that I deserve punishment. And this is the manifestation of how I punished myself exactly. And I said, well, I guess I really want to see it in a different light. I really want to see it in a different way. And I just, yeah, felt certainty that I should just continue driving and do nothing. And that's what I did. And all was really well. And I, in fact, after 10 minutes, I really forgot about it. It didn't bother me at all. So these are our lessons. Now we'll, yeah, as usual, small note on resistance. So now that we kind of going through a little bit, I'd say more theoretical lessons that, at least for me, it feels like it requires a little bit of effort to really understand what lessons are talking about. So there are fewer instructions, really, and um, they are the lessons, the ideas that are proposed for consideration are kind of very high level, for example, about oneness. So it is realistically, I'd say, the resistance in the form of I don't understand it, in the form of this is too abstract, this is too theoretic, uh, this is too high level. So well, at least for me, the way it looks for me, this is very high chance to have this kind of resistance, to refuse to understand, to refuse to consider the thoughts, to refuse to ask Holy Spirit to even ask Holy Spirit to explain the ideas to us. For me personally, it feels like this is a high chance of having this kind of resistance. And then, even if we understood the resistance of accepting these thoughts and asking Holy Spirit to show us the way to accept those thoughts for ourselves in kind of um, in the situations that we have, it feels like it will be a high chance of having this kind of resistance. So, as usual, remind, yeah, to ask Holy Spirit for help. Help is there, always there, and yeah, just what I do sometimes is I just quite frequently actually ask Holy Spirit to do the exercise with me, and I actually do notice the difference. There is the difference, and this is how we develop trust. In fact, when we notice this difference, and when we accept this help. Alrighty, so I will now pause the video for a short meditation about the um, main bullet points, main ideas of the lesson, this review lesson, and yeah, you can do the meditation. You can skip the meditation. It's up to you. I'm doing 10 minutes, but you may do what feels right to you, um, duration wise and process wise. Um, yeah, see you in 10 minutes. Okay, welcome back. Okay. So yeah, just had a very lovely meditation. What was interesting about it is that I just recognize how much I saw the first several bullet points as a sacrifice. Essentially, I have no function but the one God gave me. Once I started really to focus on it, it immediately sprang into my mind that I see it as sacrifice, that I have to give up all the decision making, all the things that I would do, I don't know, whatever. And the same for second one. With one purpose only, I am always certain what to do, what to say, what to think. And I was thinking, oh, I would really love to have a choice of what to say, what to think. But then it also appeared in my mind that the course will never, ever, ever ask for a sacrifice. And so, and then I thought, oh, we really are talking about inspiration here. And I was thinking, all right, how I could see these bullet points in the light of inspiration, how it would look like. And I just, this is really what I want to do and what I'm inclined to do and what I naturally would do. And yeah, that just showed these sentences and these ideas in a very kind of interesting light to me. So it, I don't have like prolonged experience of prolonged time experiencing these ideas in their pure form, but I certainly had glimpses and still have glimpses sometimes. And I was thinking, huh, I would just wake up in the morning and I would just be naturally inclined to do something, answer an email or do something with just inspiration to do what's right. And I wouldn't have doubt because I would know where this thought come from because of how it feels. And I thought, oh, that's a very attractive state of being. And I really would love to have it for myself. And because I'm having it for myself, I will have to share it. And because I'm sharing it, I am actually receiving it. And so I'm receiving to share, which is what Course also talks about quite a bit. Yeah. And yes, and then I also focus quite a bit on the last sentence where it just reiterated in my mind that to actually to have even idea to look for happiness where the happiness could be found, I had, and this is necessary steps to actually recognize it, to go through all the different ideas where happiness could come from. We discussed it, like cars, houses, spouses, whatever, and to recognize that it's not there. And only when we recognize that happiness is not there, it will trigger the idea that we actually need to search for happiness somewhere else. And if I would find happiness, I must learn to recognize what makes me happy. And happiness could only come from within, from the mind. It is impossible for happiness to come from the outside. And yeah, that was my meditation. Very lovely. And now we are switching to our normal, so it's a different presentation. Yeah, so before we start, usual reminder, 10 slides, 60 seconds each, 10 minutes. The way I will do these, so the idea is that you pick one bullet point and you think about it uninterruptedly for a minute. So the focus of this exercise really is uninterrupted deep diving into the idea. So because this year for me is the year of relationships, uh, I will probably do it by taking the specific applications, the second part, and applying them in particular to um, the situations that will pop up in my mind. Uh, and yeah, that's just the practice of the lesson. That's what we plan to do actually. But that's what I will do. But feel free to. So basically, I'm ignoring first three bullet points in both lessons, but it's just what I do. Feel free if you're attracted to think about the ideas rather than specific applications. Feel free to do that. It's just the way I will do that. All right, so I'm turning it on and see you in 10 minutes. I will mute myself as well. Alrighty. Yeah, so for me, the lesson I applied the suggested ideas to the a specific situation that I had at work last week when yeah, someone just triggered me in a really strong way. I didn't actually realize that I could be triggered in such a strong way. So I guess the outcome of the exercise is first a very, very, very strong reminder that doesn't matter what happened, my happiness still remains solely on my forgiveness, even in the middle of triggering. And second of all, the fact that I was now kind of introducing the forgiveness right in the height of the triggering moment will make it a lot easier for me to remember next time when something like that, or in like not necessarily like that in intensity happens. I will just remember that my goal really is happiness, and forgiveness is my only option, is my only course of action, really. So, yeah, that was the most important output. I think we are done for today. Thanks very much for watching, and see you in a week.